And we're back. And we're moving into our final conversation for today as we talk about putting together the family emergency plan that you should have all year round, but especially for the hurricane season as well. And this in this conversation is going to be with representatives of the Belize Red Cross. We have with us Feliciana Vernon, who is the M&E officer, the monitoring and evaluation officer for the Belize Red Cross, and focal point for disaster risk reduction, Fred Hunter Jr. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Such an important conversation. We always try to have it before the season starts, and we hope that we'll be able to convince them down with their families, right?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And we always try to tell people to, as part of the family emergency plan, you need to renew it every year because things changes. Your location might change, numbers might change, your house structure might change, you might improve your house structure. So considering whether or not you might evacuate or stay at your house, you know, everything changes within a year.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to just ask how people can access, or what people can access at the Red Cross to help them with this plan. We'll go through one thing, but if somebody's running out the door and say, I'll call Red Cross about that later, how do you help people with this?
At the moment, anyone that comes in, we try to attend to them. And we have these family plans, the booklets, 12 pages long in English and Spanish.
Okay.
I think we have more Spanish left over than English at this moment. And we also, of course, anyone out there that would like to help us to print more plans.
Yeah.
I remember one day right there on Albert Street on a Saturday morning between 9 and 11 in the morning in front of the Heritage Bank, the old Barclays Bank. I gave out a box of 500 of them just in a space of 2 hours. People were coming and they were going and coming back. Please give me another one for my neighbor or for my brother.
Wow. Yeah.
Because as they saw that how handy it is, they kept coming back and asking for more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is something that everyone, it's a guide. Some people say it's kind of long. I know Nemo put together a one page that you can actually stick up on your fridge that condenses it, but we think that a lot of the information in there is relevant and necessary. And Feliciana will walk you through with the...
And very key, you call it an emergency plan. It's not just a hurricane plan.
So it's in there you have what you call your grab and go bag ingredients or your list of things you should have is documents, medication, etc. Because if there's a fire, an earthquake, anything, if you suddenly need to run from home, for whatever reason, you can grab your bag with your important
grab and go for a reason, right? It's just,
And we always try to promote this. We recently did it at our agriculture show. We also go to the expo and promote it at health fairs. And businesses, schools can call us in and ask or request a presentation on this. And we would be happy to go and do this for any location, anywhere. We are happy that people are prepared.
And before we move into talking about the plan itself, we've been having this conversation every year with the hope that people are paying attention and realizing you need to get your whole family together and decide what you're going to do when and if a hurricane comes, or when and if there's a fire, tsunami warning, whatever it is. Have you seen more interest over the years?
Sporadically.
Okay.
Very few people come into the office to ask for it. Very few, once in a blue moon.
Yeah.
But at public events, fairs, we try to promote at fairs, school fairs, health fairs in the communities, community fairs, and especially like the Agric Show that has a very broad national audience.
Yeah.
We try to promote it there, and then there's where we see the interest. And as soon as they pick it up and then they start to go,
you can fill it out. Yeah.
What about this? And the thing is, the guide, this is not just for your family. You can use this for your business. You can use it for your business, and you can use it for your, even large organizations like BEL, Belize Water Services, anybody.
Yeah.
If they, is the principles behind it are applicable
In a
to
setting.
Everywhere, yeah.
any kind of
Yeah.
size group.
All right, so we have one version of the emergency plan here for people to be able to use, and I know you're gonna walk us through it, right?
Yes.
So this is what you would do if you sit down with this booklet and you have to fill out the information.
Okay, so like you said, it's a family emergency plan, and I like that you stated the whole family,
Yeah.
because even children, we encourage parents to inform the children, because without information sharing and knowledge, the children won't know what to do, and what's the first thing that they would do would be panicking.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. And when you panic, you make a lot of mistakes, you forget certain things. Yes, you might tend to panic and forget certain things, because that's all a part of an emergency.
Yeah.
But if you had shared this information, it will kick in.
Okay.
So basic information like the family name, the name of relatives, who all you will include in this family plan. Then you could go, yes, the total number of persons in the household, or
Yeah.
persons that will be staying in the households, whether it's family or neighbors, because you also consider that neighbors are also sometimes may consider a part of your family.
That's true.
Extended family.
Yeah, it's extended family. Members with special needs. And how many families are in this house? Maybe there
Yeah.
are people upstairs, living upstairs, 2 or more families, or 3 or more families together.
Yeah.
Important phone numbers, the babysitter, school, work. So, these are all important for you to know. If you're in a village, what are the emergency numbers for police, for the local clinic, the community health worker, the fire department, the NEMA representative? And the date of preparing plan, like we always mention, it's a yearly basis that you should always be updating.
Why the date?
Why the date? Because
Just so you remember to do it?
just so you remember, and that you could look back and
Yeah.
say, okay, it's been a year now that I need to redo this again.
So I want to just stick up and go back to something. One of the things we really don't think about very often is having the local numbers for your emergency services. I know through talking with Bert multiple times that it's far more effective to call the ambulance directly, because while 911 will work and it'll work for all the emergencies, it's a referral system, so
You
it
have to go
adds
to.
extra minutes onto very
Yes.
precious time.
Yes.
Yeah. So every district has their own number that you should call, right? Directly
Right.
to the fire department's office itself.
Or the like
Ambulance.
Bert has ambulance, but then the hospital can also, and then
Yeah.
like in Cayo and Spanish Lookout,
Yeah.
there's other numbers.
Yeah.
So
Even the police.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So you can use if you're in a hurry, nervous or something, you forget the long number. Okay, dial 911, dial 90 or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you can, and if you have it on a piece of paper on your fridge while you're
Yeah.
on the phone,
You
you
call
can call that
direct.
number directly.
Yeah.
Definitely, you, like you said,
Yeah.
save precious minutes
Yeah. Yeah.
or seconds.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose of this is also for getting the family to sit down and do this. Because it's not, we're trying to say it's not only the parents that are involved, but the children.
Yeah.
So sitting down and doing this as like a homework is very important.
Yeah.
Because any emergency, just being the child has broken a rib or broken something or had a massive cut or something like that. These
Yeah.
numbers, this information would be valuable as well.
Store it in their phones.
Yeah.
That's even easy if they have phones. Yeah.
The involving the children as well, giving them duties.
Yeah.
Okay, Tommy, you're 9 years old. You're supposed to check that all the windows are locked before we leave. Keeps them busy, keeps them from panicking.
Yes.
Yeah.
They can focus on, okay, I need to do this.
Yeah.
Or, Jimmy, you make sure that everybody's kit bag is by the door ready to move.
Yeah.
So when we move, we don't forget. So they'll be in charge of, where's your kit bag? Where's your
You're
kit bag?
delegating certain responsibilities
Right.
for them to
Give
be
them
able to do.
something to do,
Yeah.
so you don't have to be watching them. They're busy doing something
Yeah.
constructive,
Yeah.
keeping them calm
Yeah.
and taking one less worry off your mind.
Because
Yeah.
the unknown is really what scares them and traumatizes them. And we really don't think about that, the impact it has on children. So what you always advocate for is to give them responsibilities.
Something to do.
And to have this plan made out along with them there.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let them decide what they want to do
Yeah.
as part of the duties
Yeah.
of the family.
Okay, so this part is the location when the disaster strikes. So not all the time that disaster would strike at night. Fortunately, most of our hurricanes is during the night that it has landed. But in the event of an earthquake happening throughout the day, a threat to the school or something like that, all of that is information that you need to share and need to be aware of, because you might not always be there with your children. So knowing where and what to do.
What will be a meeting
if you're at a school, what would the child do? How would he get back to home, or what all steps that they need to do?
Yeah.
I will never let go of the fact that last year, Mr. Hunter and I discussed this emergency plan, and you threw out tsunami as a potential reason why we needed to talk about meeting places after disaster. And we had a tsunami warning that very same night. But it has, I think, triggered.
I had nothing to do with that.
Well, I'm a bit worried. Don't mention
Yeah.
earthquake out of your mouth today. But
In a Creole, I say, I put mouth.
yeah.
Goat mouth.
But
Mode.
it highlighted our lack of preparation for a situation like that. And I think that's when I think of meeting places. Anybody who's ever seen the movie on the tsunami, the massive tsunami in Indonesia
Yes.
that took place,
Yeah.
you realize that displacement is a real issue. So being able to say, after any emergency, I'm going to meet you, my child, at this spot. And so whether it takes days to get to that spot, you know where you're going to find your mommy, your daddy, your brother, your sister, your spouse.
And I want to highlight a lot of people, even for Average Show is a really big event.
Yeah.
And sometimes children
Get
get
lost.
lost.
Yeah.
And that's also, you might not think about going to these community events or these national events and those things happening. So even that, you should also tell your children, if so and so happens, what to do, where to find me, where would I most likely be. So all of that is important as meeting and location of where would some people be when a disaster hits.
Yeah.
As well as inside and outside of the community, if you're living in a rural community, where would people normally meet? Where would you be meeting with your family?
Yeah. All right, key information. So you want to get where you meet if you're still able to keep all the places if you're near your home, but also beyond where you live. Now, what are we looking at here?
So this is explaining what is a disaster. And a disaster is an event which results in major loss of lives. And like what we say, a disaster is caused by a hazard. It only becomes a disaster when it affects people and you cannot function fully as before. So
You got hurricane, drought, epidemic, floods, major traffic accident, earthquake, mudslides, or conflicts. Yeah.
Unrest.
Unrest. Yeah.
Social upheaval.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's true. Okay, so then we come back to emergency warning signs, or what you as not only a family but the community at the community level or at the national level.
Yeah.
And let's go back to what the tsunami warning. People were not aware of what to expect, and the fire department going out and blasting these sirens.
Yeah.
Everybody thought it was a fire.
Yeah.
So informing the people or the public, okay, this is what is gonna happen when a tsunami, what's a tsunami warning for you guys?
Yeah.
So that they could expect it. And all of this is very vital, like when you're living in a rural community, how to gather the people, how to come together, how to gather your family as well.
Yeah. We just spoke with Beacol earlier this week to talk about their sirens for warnings of any potential damage at the dam. Yeah. So they have that inland as well, as much as we're thinking about coastal communities.
And their danger is much more real than probabilities. are higher than-
Yeah. So knowing those signals, so I think we hope now people know what the sound of a tsunami warning is.
Yeah.
We do know the flags, for example, for the hurricanes at least.
Okay. And then another vital part is your home. what are the major threats or the vulnerabilities that your home might have, your structure? Are you living in a low-lying area? Is it prone to flooding?
You have like a huge tree that could topple over.
Yes,
like
a tree,
hurricane.
even that. Wind damage. Is it around surrounding a lot of bush, like there are bushfires as well? That could be threatening to your house as well.
Water, like if you have like water collecting.
What are some of the threats we don't think of? Because you're right, a tree, for example, can be a threat or a vulnerability. How do you distinguish?
A lot of our threats that people aren't aware, take for granted, are man-made. The butane gas terminals at different places, even the location of fuel stations.
Yeah.
And I've seen videos of, graphically showing where cell phones trigger off explosions of tankers.
Yeah.
But I got a video some while back of a tanker unloading and then man opening the top at the fuel station, and the surveillance cameras caught it all, and a car coming in and he picking it up, and before he could hit it off, massive explosion.
Wow.
And things like that. Even at the agricultural shops, the nitrogen fertilizers can also explode.
Yeah.
The Oklahoma bombing was
used
a few sacks of nitrogen fertilizer with some C4, and that I don't know how many blocks, how many buildings were damaged.
On the building. Yeah.
So there's a lot of other threats, chemical fumes going off in a neighborhood, and a lot of things we don't realize that.
I understand what you're saying. So what you're saying is, because see, my mind is always just on looking at a hurricane, but you're going beyond that. You're going beyond, maybe you live next to a refueling station. Maybe you live next to, or you have high voltage wires outside of your home, or, so you're looking at your threats even when there's no storm or threat of emergency situation. Is that what you're saying here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're also
you need to consider everything.
Yeah, even for fire, what a lot of people don't realize is, do you have a front door and a back door?
Yeah.
Some people might not. And windows, is the window, can you lift it and just go out, or are there burglar bars? It's important to have burglar bars, yes. But if you do put that in, then please consider putting in another exit door as well.
Yeah.
Because you might never know where the fire might start. How if it starts at the front of your house? So where do you go now?
Yeah. What if the fire is near your main exit?
Yeah.
Okay. So looking at your threats and vulnerabilities.
And so we go back into what the vulnerabilities at your home. What's the first priority? Like, what are the most immediate things that you could? What's the biggest thing that would affect your house? And then you would try to tackle that, try to improve that. And then the second priority, and as well the third priority.
So it's a list of what you will do if there's an emergency. All right, so this is how to do it. Get your family together, list the threats of the disasters that can happen, and what will you do in the event of each. All right.
Run, hide, jump, scream.
Can't hide from everything. Will we evacuate? So that's a question you have to decide beforehand.
Yes, you do. And where would you be evacuating to? So that's important. And if you're not evacuating, if you're putting your house as a shelter for others, you also have to set certain things into play, like who all will you be inviting, the safety of your family as well as that person's family.
Now this is key, because I know a lot of families, especially here in Belize City, when there's a threat of a storm, there's this delay period. Will I evacuate? Won't I evacuate? Maybe I'll go. I mean, I talk to many people and they're like, well, we haven't decided if we're going to stay yet. We'll see. How do you fit that into a plan, or is that just lack of planning?
There's a lot of what ifs.
Yeah.
For instance, in my case, for Hurricane Earl, a friend and his wife and child and his sister-in-law and their child was staying at his house, and they were like 3 blocks from my house, which was a 2-story concrete home.
Yeah.
He was in a 2-story wooden home, kind of strong, but then he calls me up about 9:30 and says the house next door just leaned against mine. So, in other words, the one fell and leaned against his. So he was worried about his house. He says, look, you still have time? Grab your family, come straight over there. So
Yeah.
they did that. They got there soaking wet, and we
Yeah.
were waiting for them with towels. But it's something that you being able to think ahead,
Yeah.
or have, if he hadn't communicated with me from before and we had discussed, he wouldn't have thought
I can
where
call.
to go.
Yeah. So it's knowing ahead of time. So even if you're staying in your home, if there's a last minute evacuation that's necessary, you still have a plan in place at least for that.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to also know the threats and the vulnerabilities,
Yeah.
because we always encourage you to really know when you're evacuating, because
Yeah.
we don't want you to evacuate when it's happening, when it's landing,
Like-
because that's a danger to you as well.
You're
as well
exposing
as,
yourself
yes,
then.
you are.
And it's different because I know people do this too, like a category 1, I think I'll be safe in my home. But then a category 1 goes to a category 5 in half a day, and then you have to leave because it wouldn't be safe.
Hurricane Keith, from tropical storm to category 4, and it sat in one spot. It took 3 days.
Yeah.
So everybody that was, we'll ride out the tropical storm,
Yeah.
got caught.
Yeah. All right. Know where you're going to evacuate to as well. All right. Yeah.
And then how would you be leaving? How would you be evacuating? So just laying it out, even though it might seem like obvious, or you would think about these things, this plan just goes through everything, every little detail. It might be tedious, but it's also very important to think about these things.
The people on the island know this well because the boats stop running after a certain time.
Yeah.
So you got to make that decision very fast.
So, and you have walking there, but my family moves on bicycles.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to think, can
Yeah.
we take our bikes and park them where we're going?
Yeah. All right.
And then informing other family members of your evacuation as well, because
I
people
didn't
might
think
think
of
that you might be staying and then they won't know, and then the house, how if the house collapses, and then
Yeah.
everybody, they would be saying,
Or
oh my
somebody
God,
else's.
the whole family died because the house collapses,
Yeah.
but nobody was there. And so
And let them know who all are, the number of people evacuating
Evacuating.
as well. All right. So before you leave your house, these are some of the things you want to do, right?
So making sure that the house is locked and fully secured, the storing of your valuables and furniture as high as possible, securing your vehicle against a very strong wall. So all of this is very important before you're evacuating, and people might rush, and there are certain instances when an emergency you have to be very fast. But
Why do you put your vehicle next to a strong wall? I don't know. Just so it doesn't wash away with a
Yeah.
storm surge?
And it's not bumping into things
True.
from the water.
Okay.
So leaving your yard clean and clear as well is important, and taking down, unplugging all the electricals, putting the freezer or the fridge to a higher location.
Yeah. Animals and pets. We don't think about that very often.
Don't.
First of all, you can't take them to the shelter if you're going to a shelter.
No, normally you don't take the animals or pets to a shelter, but what
Yeah.
you could do is releasing them. I know a couple people, there are certain people, unfortunate that they didn't think about that, and they left the pet tied, and
They drown.
it was a horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should never tie them though, because they can run and find safety
Yeah.
or attempt to.
And then there's the other side of it. For some people, pets aren't pets, they're family.
Their family members. Yeah.
Especially many retirees and,
Yeah.
and expats, they look at their pets as, so like for instance in San Pedro, a group actually formed to be able to transport and house their pets,
Yeah.
working together as a group.
Yeah.
So maybe if you have your pets and you value them that much, you better make alternative arrangements long beforehand and start to move your plan as soon as the first warning.
Absolutely. So don't tie them up. That's the key thing. And leave them with food
don't
and
lock them
water.
up,
Can you
yeah.
lock them up in the house? I know people who do that as well.
People do that as well.
Will they drown?
Oh,
Will the house fill up with water?
Yeah,
You have to consider that.
everything.
yeah. Okay, so this is supplies list. And you say to carry 3 days of supply, right? So you're saying water, go ahead.
Yeah, water. You would put food as well, especially canned foods, because then it's easier to package and easier to use. Clothing and bedding for the elderly as well as for young children. Tools and emergency supplies. If your family member needs medication, are they diabetic? Do they have a chronic illness? All of these you have to think about.
Yeah.
Hygiene supplies and special items.
This 3 day, there's, with your grain bars, etc., you can actually stock up with very few, space saving for a week or 2
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
And if you schedule yourself, you can actually survive for a long time with that.
Yeah.
So for water, we would say 1 gallon of water per person per day, as well as more if there's children, mothers, or ill persons. For foods, selecting foods that requires no refrigeration, preparation, or cooking, and little to barely any water. Like canned meats, fruits, and vegetables that are canned as well, and high energy fruits like what Mr. Hunter said, peanut butter, cereal, granola bars.
All right. Clothing.
1 complete change of clothing, sturdy shoes or rubber shoes as well, because you're in a shelter, when the hurricane is hitting, but how about when you have to come out?
Yeah.
The ground won't be the same, so you also have to consider that. Sleeping bags, mosquito nets, some blankets. For tools and supplies, any equipment that would be necessary, such as a battery-operated radio, extra batteries, flashlights, plastic sheeting, duct tape, a first aid kit, a whistle, can opener,
Compact, compact as possible.
Can opener. Yeah. I've actually never packed that in a hurricane box before.
Because then if you bring a canned food without the can opener, then how would you?
Serves no purpose, right?
I know.
I have this little tool here that's been for years and saved.
Yeah. Father's Day coming up. That's a great gift.
This is an extensive list.
Yeah.
Actually,
But it reminds you of the little things you don't take for granted. Yeah.
So for hygiene, we would have toilet paper, sanitary napkins, disinfectant, soap, personal hygiene, shampoo, toothpaste. For special items, we would have babies for their formula or powder milk, diapers, bottles.
Yeah, diapers.
Baby wipes, medication, and extra clothing.
And when you're saying diapers, you're saying cloth or disposable?
Both.
Yeah.
Diapers.
Necessary.
No, but imagine, you
Yeah.
know.
And then we have for pregnant females, you would normally have somebody at the shelter who would have like a kit or equipment for them.
Yeah.
Should. Not
They
always. Be prepared.
Yeah.
For the elderly, as we had mentioned before, any medication, extra eyeglasses, contact lenses, hearing aids and batteries, walking aids, wheelchairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then your prescriptions.
Prescription in case the person has diabetes, a heart problem, blood pressure, they're asthmatic as well.
Important documents, right? So I remember again with the tsunami scare, because that's the one we really weren't prepared for, talking to family and telling them which documents to hurry get out of the house.
Yeah.
What should you have? But you've always said that you should have this packed together as best as
Yes.
possible to always grab and go.
And waterproof.
Yeah, in a waterproof bag or whatever. Tell me,
Like a
what do we
Ziploc
have to
bag
pack?
or something.
At least a Ziploc
Yeah.
inside another bag. Birth certificates, any medical prescriptions or records, your home mortgage, insurance papers, licenses,
Passport.
Social
course.
security.
Yeah.
and your ID.
Yeah.
Your basic ID, your social security.
Your
at least,
will, if you have a will in place, yeah.
right?
Yeah, your
Insurance
bank,
policies.
your bank book as well, or your credit card,
Yeah.
any other thing. Like
Your
that.
vehicle papers.
Medical records as well. It's important.
All right. So just kind of have those prepared ahead of time
Yeah.
together or in places that you know where you can find them
Yeah.
so that you can grab it and go when needed. Okay, that was a very extensive explanation, and imagine there's even more stuff that you have to take into
course.
account, but it's here in this book, which you can get at the Belize Red Cross, and fill it out with your family as well. Right?
And if any kind souls would like to sponsor us printing more, we have a number of printers that you know,
Yeah.
very reasonable rates, and the template is there. We just have to
Send it to them to
send it.
print.
And then
Thank you for coming in
Thank you
and
for
having
having
this conversation with us. We hope that people have been able to think of what they need to do to put their plan together. Perhaps we've mentioned some things they didn't think of before, and they will put it into use from this point forward. So thank you.
Thank you. as
thank you
well.
too.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take that final break now, and we'll come back and have our wrap up. So stay tuned.